I've found that to be true at HomeGrown, and I found something really interesting in prepping for this. I went back and I looked at every time that I'd visited HomeGrown and looked at the posts that I did after. And each time, I specifically called out our waitress's name because they treated us so well. Grace and Jayla were their names. Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and I gotta be honest, when I first heard that HomeGrown was coming to Omaha, I was not psyched. I was like, we don't need another breakfast chain here. We've got plenty of those, but mostly we've got great local spots, and those are the type of spots that I really like to highlight. But as I learned more about HomeGrown and what they were going to bring to the Blackstone area and what this restaurant really represents, I actually got really excited. I was like, yes, this might not be a locally owned restaurant, but this is something really cool. This is something really unique, and I think they're going to bring something to the Omaha space that we don't have right now. And now that I've been a couple times and I've gotten to meet my guests today, I am happy to say that's definitely the case. I have with me the general manager of HomeGrown, Paul Dullard. Paul, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
So I would love to start with you taking me inside HomeGrown's mission. So the restaurant, it started in Wichita, Kansas, now has 14 locations spread across the Midwest. But as the name implies, I think each location, while it might have like a similar menu, similar design, similar ethos, it also embraces the local community. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about how each location is a little bit different?
Yeah, depending on where you're at, whether you're in Kansas City, Northwest Arkansas, Wichita, Iowa, and now Nebraska, soon to be Virginia. I've always said a chain restaurant is a restaurant that has more than one location. So we don't really think of ourselves as a chain. We try to go into the communities and kind of ingrain ourselves into the restaurant scene, the history of the neighborhoods that we're in. We are in some historic neighborhoods in other cities as well, not just Blackstone. We do our best to be local. We eat local. We pump up local restaurants. We offer local restaurants, our local food vendors food in our restaurant. We use local products whenever we can. Kind of our thing is if it's better, we want to use it. I tell the Fathead Honey story a lot because I think they're great people, and fourth generation beekeeper you don't hear very often. So that's we're going to be all over the Midwest, but we really want to be part of the community.
What's the Fathead Honey story?
So this would have been, last summer, we started coming to Omaha to find our local products. We have a core group of local products that we use in every city we go to. And we tried, it was 6 or 7 different Nebraska-sourced honeys. And Fathead was, there was a team of about 4 of us. There was a lot of honey testing that day. Luckily, though, there was also a lot of vodka testing that day for our Bloody Marys. But we tried, I think it was 6 different local honeys and blind taste test. And Fathead came out in everyone at the top. So, you've got local beekeeper, 4th generation, just beautiful, beautiful people, and fantastic product. And we use the local honey in our honeybee latte. We use it in our Lolo's granola and yogurt. It's on our sweet corn honey cake that's on our seasonal menu right now. So we use that in a lot of different ways. And they're definitely one of those companies that they sell the feel good just like we do. And so for me and us, HomeGrown, that's important. That's really important to us. We don't want to just go in and pick there's a honey spot right there that makes their own honey, and then let's just start with that because it's right there. We like to spend some time. We want to make sure that we align kind of the same thought in supporting local, being local, and serving the best quality product we can find.
And that right there, I think, is what makes homegrown different. I won't use this CH word again, but what makes homegrown different from other restaurants that have locations in multiple cities, because you guys are going into the community. And I mean, I can't think of another restaurant that's come into Omaha and said, yeah, we're going to do a blind taste test with these different things. And we use honey as a specific example, but I mean, you use coffee from Archetype Coffee. You've got bread from Rotella's and Le Cordier. I know that you have volcanic peppers, hot sauces. I mean, literally the first thing that you see when you walk into Homegrown is that kind of shelf right up front that's got all the local products. It's got Archetype's Coffee. It's got Fathead Honey. It's got books from local authors. It's got different mugs and things from local creators. And I think that is such a unique thought to say, yeah, we're going to come into this community, but we're not just going to like barge in and be like, okay, we're here. We're going to come in and say, hey, yeah, we're here, but we want to discover something about this area. We don't just want people to discover us. We want to discover what makes Omaha great and highlight that. I think that's really cool. From a business standpoint, it's probably not as cost efficient. I imagine it'd be a lot easier to go with, big chain brands, or to have all your different locations source the same honey, because then you can buy more in bulk. Same with coffee, same with hot sauce, whatever it might be. What is it about Homegrown's ethos that says, you know what? Yes, this is going to cost us a little more money. It's definitely going to be more effort, but it's going to be worth it. This is part of our ethos. What is that?
So our owner, John Rolfe, Homegrown is his and his wife Lauren's. It's their baby, and Homegrown started more with a thought than it did of what kind of restaurant do we want to be. We have Cultivate Kindness in gigantic letters behind our bar, and that's in any Homegrown you'll find. That's on a wall somewhere. And Homegrown started with that, Cultivate Kindness. Our goal is to, we're a lot of people's first contact in the day, right? Mm-hmm. We have people coming in right at 6:30 a.m. You can tell that they just got out of bed. They're just getting ready to start their day, whatever that entails, whether it's work or church or, their Saturday off. And we're their first contact. And if we can start their day the right way, right out of the gate, then we've accomplished our mission. One of the things, too, because of how Homegrown started and the Cultivate Kindness and the be part of community, not necessarily the community, but be part of community, be community, that translates into good people that work at Homegrown, people that buy into the mission, myself included. I'm a lifelong restaurant manager. I've been in this business since I was 15 years old, a long time. And I've worked for large chain restaurants. I've worked for smaller chain restaurants. And for me, knowing that restaurant management's my career, I always needed something to latch onto. Whether it was, this place makes all their food from scratch. Important to me. I needed something to latch on. With Homegrown, it's multiple things. I get to be the kind of leader that I want to be to the people that work with me. I say this a lot. I said we're not there to beat them over the head with a 2x4 every day. We're there to teach and coach and grow and have a good time and be happy and cultivate kindness. And it's not just a motto for us. And one of the things you'd find if we actually just opened our 14th location 2 Mondays ago. Every GM that you find in a homegrown, they're going to tell you the same things that I am. They're going to live our motto, our credo, our mission the same way that I do. They have the same love for homegrown that I have. They've created something that allows lifelong restaurant managers, newer restaurant managers to come into the career and actually enjoy it. We're only required to work 45 hours a week. You don't hear that in a restaurant.
No.
You just don't.
Usually it's 45 hours in 3 or 4 days.
It's those kind of things. And yes, we're going to work weekends, but I've never been a weekend off kind of guy anyway. So, but we've created a feeling, and that feeling radiates from not just our ownership and our leadership, but from the restaurant managers down into the employees. And when you build that kind of environment, it bleeds. It bleeds into your people. It bleeds into the guest, and that's what we're after.
Now, I think a cynic would hear a lot of what you just said and say, okay, that sounds like coach speak. That sounds like a general manager trying to pump up his restaurant. Anyone would say that
Sure.
That we approach this with love and we treat everyone great and everything. I've found that to be true at Homegrown, and I found something really interesting in prepping for this. I went back and I looked at every time that I'd visited Homegrown and looked at the posts that I did after. And each time, I specifically called out our waitress's name because they treated us so well. Grace and Jayla were their names. And I remember those experiences, and I remember how friendly they were. I remember how my wife and I asked for real recommendations, and they gave recommendations, and they were willing to make adjustments for us. They touched the table just the right amount of times. And you really did. Those were great experiences, because the food was very, very good. And we're going to get to the food here.
Sure.
But because that culture, that environment was there where those employees were happy at work, and so there's a trickle-down effect. They're happy, so they treat other people around them well, and then the guests feel that, and they share in that same happiness. So if somebody is listening to this and they're just like, well, of course this guy's going to say, yeah, we treat everybody great. It's true. I felt that.
Yeah, we work hard every day to do the right thing every time and to live what we say we are. And for me, the thing that's different is you don't get to do that with most large chain restaurants as a manager. Mm-hmm. You don't get to do that. Every day's a battle. Every day's a grind. Some days it's just trying to survive until the door's locked. We don't do that. We don't do it. And the employees know that. And I have some employees that have worked at other restaurants, and they'll tell you their horror stories. But they love working at Homegrown because they love that we live what we say. It's not. I say this a lot. I say it to guests. I remind our employees a lot. It's not just a motto on the wall. Lots of restaurants, they have mission statements. Very few, unfortunately, are able to live those the percentage of time that they'd like to. I think good restaurant managers will always try, but sometimes you're bound by your four walls and what you can actually accomplish in a day. Our concept, our company, encourages that. They celebrate it and reward it. They want, as we continue to open homegrowns, They want to make sure that we never lose that soul of who we are. And a lot of restaurants start that way, I think. I've seen it happen. My resume is littered with restaurants that aren't around anymore. But a lot of restaurants go in with that thought process. This is who we are. This is how we're going to be. This is what we're going to do. And then things get hard, or they grow really big, and they start to lose some of that control, and they start to lose their soul and why they started. And it's one of the reasons that I love to eat at the local restaurants. I'm a transplant. I'm an Omaha transplant. I'm from Iowa, but I've been running restaurants or overseeing restaurants in the Nebraska market for 15 years, but recently moved here. So 2 weeks ago, my hospitality manager, my kitchen manager, we printed off Omaha Food Lovers top restaurants of 2024. And so every Saturday night now, we are crossing them off, man. We're trying to, we know we're not once a week, we're not going to be able to get them all, but we're having new experiences. We're meeting new people. One of my guests actually at HomeGrown, who was a regular at my Des Moines HomeGrown, but her family lives in Nebraska. She was in town visiting her sisters, and she stopped by just to say hi. And she was telling me about her day and where they went and ate and what they were doing. And I said, well, I've never heard of that restaurant. And it was Dinker's.
Oh, Dinker's.
Yeah. And I said, she goes, oh, yeah, Omaha's best burger. And I said, wait a minute. Is that like right off of 480, and they got a big sign? And she goes, yeah, that's the place. I said, I see that every day when I drive home, and I've always thought about stopping there. And so that was our destination that night. So Kent and Rob and I actually went to Dinker's that night. And Kent had been there before, I believe. Rob hadn't been. And we had an amazing experience. I mean, just the whole thing was fantastic. Were the burgers amazing? Absolutely. But the service was great. The gal at the counter that took our order was great. The bartender was great. And so every Saturday I get on OFL and I make a post about, hey, this is where we're at this week. These were our people that took great care of us. This is how great the food was. So we've got a pretty lengthy list of restaurants that are on the Saturday night get-together.
Trust me, I know that struggle. There's so many restaurants to visit in Omaha. You can't check off the list fast enough. Two follow-ups there. First of all, yes, Dinker's is awesome. Like, just such a down-home burger place. I mean, like, you're paying, I don't know what it is, right? But I feel like it's only like $8 or $9 for a burger. And no, it's not fancy. It's not Wagyu beef or anything. But you just bite into it. It's just like, damn, that's a good burger.
It is a good burger.
And it's just a fun place. But there was something that I have to follow up on because it was so interesting what you said. You said that we're talking about this culture where, you know, we're going to create a culture where everybody feels valued and people aren't going to be overworked and people are going to like when they go to work and you know, things like that. And that so many restaurants start off like that, but it's difficult to maintain. And I could not agree more because the restaurant industry is really hard. The margins are razor thin, so people are on edge, and sometimes you have to make hard decisions. You talked about scaling. I mean, it's a lot easier to create a great culture for owners when they have one location. They're interacting with people every day. But when all of a sudden you're at 3 locations, 4 locations, 14 locations, and you're in multiple states, the owners are no longer, they don't have direct control over all those. They have to hire great people and train them to say, this is our culture, and then trust them to carry it out. So many restaurants or restaurant groups struggle to do that. What do you think is it about HomeGrown that has allowed you guys to successfully continue to maintain that culture? What's different?
Well, the elephant in the room is that we're only open 8 hours a day. that makes a big difference.
That helps.
When you're only open 56 hours a week, I mean, as a GM, I could work open to close every day, and I'd still only be there, 60 hours a week, and that's a 5-day week in a lot of restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So that does make a difference. It for me. Our ownership, and this isn't my first go around with Thrive Restaurant Group. I worked for Carlos Kelly's for almost 10 years for David Rolfe. It's his son now that owns the company, and David still to this day is a mentor. He's retired now, but to say that his son is a chip off the old block is an understatement. They understand that their people are their most important asset. And they understand that without those good people, it doesn't matter. The rest doesn't matter. The food quality doesn't matter. How cute the restaurant is doesn't matter. If we don't have the people, if they don't believe in what we believe in and want to do what we want to do, we're not going to succeed. And I think a lot of times, well, I'll speak just from my personal experience because I've been in this business a long time. A lot of times, the people at the top, for whatever reason, whether it's profit or sales or whatever it is, they lose that. They lose that the people are the most important thing, and start focusing on the pennies. And when you start focusing on the pennies, you're at the start of a bad place. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to end well. You said restaurant margins are small, and man, are they. We've been 30 years. I've been saying the same. The average restaurant makes a nickel on every dollar. That's never changed. That's the average. I mean, some make more, some make less. It's hard to make a living on a nickel on every dollar. And then when your cost of goods go up, eggs, great example.
Eggs flying up lately, yeah. For a breakfast restaurant.
We survived the major. We didn't start upcharging for eggs through that process. I mean, we went from $47 a case to $137 a case.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And when is that increase from?
So what we opened February, so half of February.
That's just in the time that you've opened?
Most of March.
So it's like I'm terrible at math, but the price of eggs tripled in the course of 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there were a couple of weeks where we had to source other areas to get eggs because they just didn't have them.
Yeah.
So we ate that. John said, and we asked, are we going to do anything? Are we going to add upcharge? And he said, no, we're just going to eat it. We're going to weather the storm. We're not going to pass that on. Our guests don't deserve that. It's cost of doing business. I respect that. I respected that. But that's the kind of thought process I'm talking about that kind of drives HomeGrown. And not just HomeGrown, but Thrive Restaurant Group. We have other concepts too. That's it starts at the top. Mm-hmm. And we talk about it a lot, about not losing our soul, making sure that we keep who we are. Mm-hmm. And weather the egg storms and back in the day at Carlos Kelly's, it was cheese. Cheese would quadruple in price, and we just ate it. It's not every restaurant can afford to do that, especially small local restaurants, which gets me into a whole other topic. But a one-off local, if pizza place, let's say, Izzy's one of my favorites.
Shout out to Brett and Cherish. You guys are doing God's work.
They really are, man. That pizza is just... They were one of the first places when I finally got settled in Omaha. They'd been on my list for a while. And before we even were open at HomeGrown, we were doing construction stuff and setting up the restaurant. And I'm like, we need to go get some Izzy's pizza. And we did. But you have someone like that, if cheese quadruples in price, man, they have to do something, right? So I spend a lot of time educating, I guess would be the word, people on buying power. One restaurant buys cheese. I have a Cisco national contract, so my cheese is already 30% less than their cheese costs them. So if it quadruples in price, I can weather that storm. Your single local business owner can't weather that storm. They have to do something. They have to raise their prices or put on a surcharge or whatever it is. And because I follow local food pages and I read reviews, that's who I am. I try to educate people on, hey, listen, everybody always says, we want local, eat local. You have to realize if you're going to eat local, it's going to cost you a little more. They pay higher prices than your large groups do. And especially if you Olive Garden or, pick a large national chain restaurant. Those places have hardcore discounted food that they buy, and your local one-off doesn't. I used to run into when I lived in Ankeny, Iowa. I used to run into there's a little local Chinese place there that I love to eat at, and I used to run into the owner all the time at Sam's Club because he'd buy a lot of his products at Sam's because he saved, maybe it was a dime on a dollar, but that's a big deal, right? So that's something important to me. I try to educate people a lot on that is don't say you want local if you're not willing to pay a little more for it.
Well, I appreciate you kind of pulling back the curtain on that. And I think, you mentioned, yes, you do have some national contracts, but again, that speaks into just how homegrown is different because you could have a huge coffee contract where you're just like, yep, we're bringing in whatever coffee, Folgers, and we're just buying it in mass for every location, and we're going to get a huge discount on it. No, Archetype, again, local coffee company. It's going to cost more. The product is a lot better, but it's going to cost more, and a lot of customers might not even notice. But Homegrown has decided that matters to us. We want to work with local partners. We want to serve the best products that we can. And I think that that's something that's very admirable.
Yeah.
Okay. We've gone 29 minutes without talking about food, which is maybe a record on this podcast. I'm absolutely loving our conversation. Don't get me wrong, but we got to talk about a little bit of food here, tease some taste buds. I think just looking over the menu at Homegrown, I think it's so interesting. Probably two of the most popular things, or the things that I see talked about the most, are more starters than entrees. The first one that I want to talk about is the homemade HG tarts, not Pop-Tarts, homemade HG tarts. I want to make sure I got that name right. What is the story behind those? Because I've seen other breakfast places that try to do homemade Pop-Tarts, and some are really successful, some are not even as good as the prepackaged ones that you ate as a kid. Tell me a little bit about the Pop-Tarts.
And I will say I've had two very good Pop-Tarts in Omaha, homemade Pop-Tarts.
Good Evans and No Good Eats. I'll shout them out. They both do a very good job.
Zen Coffee.
Yes, Zen makes their pastries as well. That's a great call.
Yeah, we liked theirs so much. We were really close, and I'm not saying that it won't happen. We like to get a local bakery to do our Pop-Tarts, and we haven't been able to lock that down yet. But we're actually still working on it. But the Pop-Tart, I'll tell you, the first Homegrown I ate at was in Wichita. It was the very first unit, and I think I was there in the first few weeks that they had opened, and I was working for a different company at the time. And I popped in because I still knew leadership in the company. I'd worked for them before in a different brand. But the first day I went in, I had baked oatmeal, and a Pop-Tart. And the Pop-Tart back then, this would have been, 7 years? We've been 7 years now, I believe. 7 years ago. The Pop-Tart then was different than it is now. They used to make them in store, which is very labor intensive. And
it's pastry. Pastry's really hard to do right.
We talk about that a lot. I actually, we use Le Cordier croissants at Blackstone. We're the only homegrown that actually has local fresh baked croissants, because they're not everyone makes great croissants.
Because they're really hard.
They are really hard.
You got to put so many layers. They take time.
They do. And Le Cordiers are great, and we love them, and it's been a game changer for our croissant French toast. But Pop-Tarts are kind of the same. They're kind of the same. I think there was a learning process for homegrown as well. And just in the last 2 years, I've kind of learned the process and how we sheet them and how many millimeters we sheet the dough to. And I have a lot of follow-up with the bakery that's making our Pop-Tarts right now, about making sure that the filling is spread evenly. I picked up a shipment of Pop-Tarts, and all the filling was, you could tell it was a scoop right in the middle. I'm like, guys, I can't serve these. This needs to be spread. And we bake them in-house. Could we make them in-house still? Yes. It'd be hard at Blackstone. We have a very small kitchen. But we prefer to find another local partner that can do that for us, that can make those and assemble them. Our recipe, but they're the skilled bakers, right? So the ones we have right now, they're fantastic. Flaky crusts, great fillings. I brought some key lime Pop-Tarts today. Real key lime juice, excuse me, in the filling. And they are a signature item for us. And I think it's because since the beginning, they've looked at them constantly and said, is this a good enough product? I'll tell you, the first one, I remember the one I had that day, and it was good. The dough was thick. It was pie dough. There were way too many sprinkles on it. It was over-iced. It was hard to cut, and it was still really good. But through that process, they looked at that and said, yeah, it's just not quite what we want. We can do it better. Let's figure out how to do it better. And through that process is when they started looking at, hey, you know what? Let's go get a local baker to make these for us. We can bake them. We've got the big giant combi ovens. We can bake them at the store. We can make the icing. We can ice pot. That's manual labor. It's not, it's just spread it, powdered sugar, but to actually get that pastry sheeted properly, get it crimped properly, get the filling spread out. It's been a growing process, I think, for homegrown, and we still look at them. Still, I get them. We bake them. I eat a lot of Pop-Tarts, but we try them. We make sure they're great products still. So, they're a big deal for us. They really are. And like I say, not so much when I was in Iowa, but here in Omaha, there are a lot of Pop-Tarts in the community. They're not all great, but there's some good ones out there. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're like me and you want to go look, and I do. I do. I don't want to eat breakfast in my restaurant. When I go out for brunch or I go out for breakfast, I have my favorites. shout out to Lola's. I love Lola's. Mm-hmm. Lola's has the best breakfast sandwich ever invented. The Toasty,
yes, on their focaccia.
Oh my god,
yes, and it's like 3 or 4 ingredients, but they're all just so beautifully put together. And that focaccia, oh my gosh, when I can feel it in my hands right now. Yeah. Oh my gosh, bite it. Okay, this is not a Lola's commercial. We love you, Lola's.
We do.
But oh my goodness, yeah. Sorry, yeah. I interrupted you to go crazy about Lola's. But
yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Lola's. I like to go to Lola's. And I like to go to Good Looking as well.
Oh yeah,
Those are my breakfast spots.
Good Looking is fantastic.
Yeah.
Other item that I have to ask you about. First of all, I would love to see you guys get hooked up with Zen because Abby is an awesome person. I think you guys could have a great relationship there if it works out. If it doesn't, that's fine too, because you have a system and process that's making a great product as it is. The coffee cake. Coffee cake is not something that I generally order, especially when I'm thinking like breakfast. I'm not someone who likes to eat dessert for breakfast, and a lot of breakfast items are kind of desserty when you look at them, including Pop-Tarts. But the last time that I came into HomeGrown, my wife and I were having brunch, and we placed our order, and you came over and gave us a slice of the coffee cake, and you were just like, hey, this is just a thank you from us. We just really wanted you to experience this. It's huge. Yeah. It's like a brick. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm like, well, we already ordered. Like it's 9 a.m. or whatever. I'll take a couple courtesy bites. We'll make it look like we put a good effort in, and then we'll call it a day. Sarah and I housed that whole thing because it was so good, and I was like, "Yep, this is another 45 minutes on the elliptical. I don't care. This is worth it." Like, how did coffee cake become like a signature item?
So the coffee cake, it's something that. We spend a lot of time with our coffee cake. It's not the simplest thing to make. It's not the simplest thing to make perfectly every time. I'll tell you, I threw away 3 batches of coffee cake last week because it fell. And if it falls,
you can't serve it.
It's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes proper training. It takes strict adherence to the process, but the batter's made from scratch. It's baked in our ovens. We make the cinnamon crumble topping from scratch, and then it's a quality check product. It's either right, or I don't want to say it always goes in the trash. A lot of times, if we mess something up, as long as it tastes great. If it's thin, I like to cut it up. I like to put it on trays, and I like to take it out into the community. We do that a lot of times with our fresh-baked French toast bread as well that we make in-house. But then it's a quality-checked item because it is so important. It's a we call them craveable items. It's a craveable item,
mm-hmm.
And I might have said to you that day when I brought that out that this is how I hook them,
mm-hmm.
right?
We tasted why, like immediately. We were like, "Damn, this
is how I hook them." And we get that every day. Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. We serve it with a buttermilk caramel sauce that we also make from scratch, which is not a simple product either.
I was going to say, I'm not going to let you go without touching on that caramel sauce.
Yeah,
that is spectacular.
That's what's in my latte right now. So
that's how you get me to start drinking coffee right there.
Right there. That'll do it. It's it's so good when it's made properly. That's how I hook them. To say that I give away 6 or 7 coffee cakes a week or a dozen Pop-Tarts a week just out of the blue would not be out of the realm of possibility. So
were there, I imagine there's typically between all locations, there's probably certain best sellers on the menu, but there's also, I'm guessing, and maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, feel free to tell me. In each location, there are some dishes that outperform others that maybe, I don't know if they surprise you or not, but are there any specific dishes that like Omaha has really taken to that maybe you haven't seen at other locations, or you're kind of like, that's interesting?
We've been talking about this since we opened. Our turkey avocado Sammy.
Really?
God, they love that sandwich here in Nebraska. I sell more of those than probably twice as many as I sold when I was in Iowa. It was one of our least sold sandwiches in Iowa, the Cuban and the BLTAE. Those are usually your top sellers. Over lunch today, I was running Expo, and I had 6 turkey avocado Sammys just on delivery orders.
Wow.
And then we had 3 for the restaurant. And I look back at my poor pancake sandwich kid, and I'm like, they are smacking you in the mouth today, aren't they? And he's like, he just had that look like, oh, my God. But, yeah, it's the turkey avocado sandwich. I mean, just immediately. It's they have embraced that here in Nebraska, for sure. Typically, and I mean, pretty much most homegrowns, biscuits and gravy, that's your number 1 seller.
Mm-hmm.
Salsa verde, pork and eggs, usually number 2, number 3.
So when you have an item that unexpectedly pops off like that, do you guys try and figure out why that is, or do you just chalk it up and say, hey, Omahans love it, good for them? That
I can't live that way. I got to know why.
Yeah.
I have to know why.
What have you learned?
So Blackstone District and being in the Plaza building that we're in, we are, strangely enough, a very lunch-driven restaurant Monday through Friday. We definitely do more lunch during the week, heavier breakfast on the weekends. That's number 1. And then number 2 is it's served on Le Cordier's brioche bread. And that stuff is it's magical. It's just such a good it's not a dense bread. It's got a little sweeter flavor to it. It toasts up perfectly on the grill. And so then when you put everything into that sandwich, it's a great sandwich. It really is. But then that bread just makes a difference. And one of the things, once we figured out what a huge seller that was, I went through and had all my knives sharpened because we were cutting them and it was breaking the corners of the bread. And I'm like, we can't do that. These people love this sandwich. I want a perfect cut every single time, whether it's goes in a delivery box or whether it goes on a plate. I want it just a sharp cut because they love the sandwich, and I don't want to give anyone a reason to not love that sandwich. And then that Southwestern coleslaw that we make from scratch and put on top is just that's chef's kiss. For sure.
You cannot have a great sandwich without great bread, and if you're working with Le Cordier, you're going to have great bread.
Their bread is just fantastic. We have their multigrain, their brioche, their wheat, and their croissants, and they're just they're amazing breads, and that's why we're using them. It's why we picked them. So we love when. It's not always by design, but when our local partners, when they turn out to be one of the best at their craft, that's just a win-win for everyone.
Now, you've been at HomeGrown for quite a while now. I don't know how involved you were with this process, but as HomeGrown is looking to expand, how is Omaha identified as, hey, this is a place that we want to get into?
I think Omaha, because Thrive Restaurant Group has other restaurants here, and has had other restaurants here in the past. And they're very much a Midwest. They've always kind of been a Midwest concentrated group. Omaha was just kind of you knew it was coming at some point, right? It's a great town. And then I think I'll tell you, if I'm not mistaken, the story that I heard was this all started with John Lund. So John Lund wanted a restaurant in that spot where we are. And someone that he knows our owner, John, and said, you need to call this guy. And if you listen to John tell the story, he'll tell you he tried and tried to get a hold of John to get a homegrown there. But it grew from that. John wanting a restaurant there, knowing somebody that knew our owner. It's kind of a neat little story the way it all kind of worked out. And then like I say, we do have some homegrowns and some historical buildings in districts. The one in Des Moines that I came from in the historic Crescent Chevrolet building, downtown Des Moines, great building, the building actually isn't historic. It's the Crescent Chevrolet sign that's on the top that got labeled historic. So we have one in Kansas City that's in a really old brick building that's like 100-year-old brick strip mall almost kind of deal. Beautiful building, kind of a neat building. So I think once those two started talking, and then John got his eyes on the space and kind of saw the neighborhood and kind of the history of the Blackstone district and saw what was going on in the Blackstone district and what was coming with the rail car and everything. It was just kind of meant to be. And I'd say that you'll probably see another one. You'll probably see another homegrown.
Okay.
In Omaha.
We'll file that one away.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the first one has had such success.
Yeah.
So
I will say we're not the place that's going to come into a community and build 9 restaurants, 10 restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
That's not who we are. It's not what we do. If we can find the right neighborhood to be in, and kind of spread what we do, then that's good for us.
I want to take you back to Monday, February 3rd.
Yeah.
That was your first day open.
It was.
What do you remember most about that day?
It wasn't as busy as I would have liked. The excitement level that day was just palpable. It was just, we had leadership in the building. We had our president of operations, vice president of operations. We had president of Thrive Restaurant Group. John Rolfe, the owner, was there. His dad, David, was there. It's always a treat when I get to see David. The employees were excited, nervously excited, but they were just ready to do it, right? We'd been telling them for 5 days, this is who we are, this is what we expect, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to treat people. And I think that first day they saw firsthand that we weren't just blowing smoke. We meant it. And they saw that coming from me and Kent and Rob and Dave and Robin and just everybody that was there. We were all there for the same reason. And I think once they started seeing that, these guys really mean this. For me, that made it a really great day. Once they see that for real, once it's not just talk, and they see us out there creating those relationships and talking about our great food and cultivating kindness and being part of the community and celebrating our local partners. Once they see that we really mean that, it's kind of like a light bulb clicks,
Well, and I think that there's huge importance to, hey, new location is opening and the owners are there.
Yeah.
The people who are way up in the company, who are highly invested, are there. It's not just some overlord 6 states away that is making all the big calls but doesn't, care about the individual people. They're in the restaurant that day saying, hey, here we are. Here's how we do things. We are here to support you. We care about you. When employees see that and experience that, they feel that, and kind of goes back to what we talked about at the start of this conversation. That's how you get buy-in from people, and that's how a culture is not only established but maintained. I clearly haven't seen your books or anything, so I don't know how popular you've been, but I've seen a lot of very positive posts online. The times that I've been in, it's been pretty darn busy, especially on the weekends. I mean, for a new restaurant, even one that comes in with an established identity and culture already, it's hard to hit the ground running in a new market. What do you think allowed HomeGrown to have that success right away?
The people that we hired, that we trusted with our culture, our credo, our motto, our mission statement, whatever. We really kind of hit the jackpot with our people. I've been doing this 40 plus years, and this is quite possibly, it's definitely one of the best staffs I've ever had, top to bottom. And that's hard to do. Usually you've got your core group of great people, and then there's always a few around the edges that, hit or miss. We ended up with a good group of kids. We really did. Front to back. Very, very few. There are very few people that aren't still with us from day one. Very few. And the ones that aren't, took themselves out of the equation. So, once again, I said this early on, it's the people are the most important thing. The employees are the most important people in the restaurant. I can't run a restaurant by myself. I can't even do it with Kent and Rob and Macy. The four of us can't run the restaurant by ourselves. We need those servers. We need those cooks, dishwashers, prep cooks, bussers, hosts. We need them. And when you can lock down that many people that buy in, it makes
You're
magic
cooking
happen.
With gas, yeah.
It does. It makes magic happen, and we're seeing that. I mean, we see it in our online ratings. And are we always going to be everything to everyone? No. It's part of the business that you're in. But something that comes out of my mouth all the time is we're not always perfect. We're not always going to be perfect. It's a restaurant business. It's hard. It's always been hard. It gets harder every day. We're going to mess up. And my team is trained to fix it. Accept responsibility, fix it. I don't care what it is. We're not it's just food. We're not going to argue over food. It just makes no sense. If you don't like what you're served, we're not going to make you pay for it. We're going to get you something that you do like. I train my managers never let somebody leave the building without a smile on their face and a full belly. And I don't care what you have to do those two things. I don't care. Make them happy and make sure they're fed. And if they don't like what they have, get them something they will. Sounds really simple when I say it, but it's really
not a lot of restaurants follow that credo.
It's really not. Yeah, it's just food. It needs to be more about just the scrambled eggs that are in front of you. It's important that we care about whether people are happy with what we're selling them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're giving us their money for it.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be happy with it. But I also am a realist and realize that we can't be 100% perfect all the time.
No one can be. Man,
do we try. We do. We try hard every day. But I always tell people, hey, if something's not to your liking, if you ever had even the smallest sideways experience, my business cards are at the host stand every day. All you got to do is let me know. I'm going to make it right by you. I never want to lose anybody. So, especially over something simple, if your scrambled eggs were too done, I'm going to make you new ones. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to cook them myself to make sure that they're right. So, 40 plus years, and this is my career. It's not a job. It's my career. It's what I do. So I try to be the best at it at all times. And I've got a team that tries too, and that's a blessing right there.
We're getting up against the clock, but I got one more very important question for you, Paul. As you're going through this list and you're checking restaurants off and you're trying different Saturday night meals, let's give a shout out to, I don't know how many you want to say are your top 3, top 4. What are some of the big standouts that you've had so far that you want to give some love to?
So listen,
other than Dinkers, we love Dinkers.
I love Dinkers. I did find out that there seems to be Dinker's Best Burger Group, and
Stella's.
Stella's.
I'm Team Dinkers. Love Stella's too, but I'm Team Dinkers.
I haven't had Stella's yet. It's on the list. But boy, that is a very separated group. Yeah, for sure. Because I've been working, overseeing restaurants in Omaha for a long time, I've been a pitch fan for years. And until I came this time, I hadn't eaten at the one in Dundee. It was always out west. And I always loved that place. I loved their food. I loved their pizza. I loved the atmosphere, the ambiance. And then a gal that was a store opening trainer for me with Hoo-Ha when I worked for them, she works there. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to go check out the one in Dundee. I'll say hi to her. And I hadn't been in the Dundee neighborhood before. It's just such a neat place.
I love Dundee.
So, big pitch fan. Dinkers, Chibo Vino. Kent and I went there. Just had an absolutely fantastic experience. And something I do when I go try new restaurants, especially local restaurants, I always see what their Google rating is. And then I like to compare my experience to their Google rating. And, I even said on my OFL post for Chibo, I don't understand why they have a 4.3 rating. I don't get it. Because it was fantastic. The service was fantastic. The drinks were fantastic. The bread was amazing. My pasta, my handmade, fresh-made pasta was outrageously good. One of the best bolognese sauces I've ever had. The meatballs we just had a great meal, great experience, great service. And not everybody has that magic every time, but you really got to mess up for me to not have a great time at your place. You really got to mess up. You have to try. Chibo was great. I'll tell you one that I haven't been to yet, but their Facebook, I follow them on Facebook, is Jay's Smokehouse. I have got to get to Jay's Smokehouse, man.
You are in for a good time.
I love barbecue, and I think it was yesterday they posted this video of ribs, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so hungry.
The only problem with Jay's is it's like legitimately hard deciding what to get there because their ribs are fantastic. They have barbecue tacos that are incredible. And slept on, they've got my vote for the best smash burger in Omaha right now.
I've seen a lot of posts about their
burger.
smash burger.
Is phenomenal. Yeah. So, like, even when you go, you're just like, you can love your meal and still, I can be like, oh, this burger is just crushing it right now. But did I miss out on the ribs? I got to come back for the ribs. And if you have the ribs, you're like, oh, but I got to come back and get the brisket and tacos. So, definitely get to Jay's. You're going to have a good time there. And
I got to shout out my friends at Camp. Camp Blackstone. I remember when we first came to town, I was trying to figure out what in the world is Camp. What is this food hall concept? I don't get it. I went with our leadership over there. We ate there a few nights. And then I have to tell you, I know the ownership now. I know all the bartenders by name. They're my peeps for sure, and the food there's fantastic. They have a Korean corn dog right now that is rolled in Fruity Pebbles, and I got to tell you, it doesn't make sense, but it is so good. You look at it. Christina brought me one night, and I'm like, oh,
do I want to eat this?
I don't know. And then you have it, and you're like, this makes no sense. This should not be this good. So we spend a lot of time there. Get Real Sandwiches is one of my all-time favorite spot, Aiden's spot. I'm still going to – I really want Aiden's hot sauce in my restaurant. His hot sauce is killer. It's top-notch. I'm going to keep working him to see if we can – I am. I know it's hard. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to meet the demand, I've gone through 120 bottles of Lola's in 3 months, so we moved some hot sauce for sure. But there's just so many. I like Moolah.
I mean, you're in a great neighborhood there in Blackstone. You got a great strip with all kinds of awesome restaurants.
It really is. And then, boy, live jazz at Red Lion. Hello.
Yeah. Well, I hate to do this, but we This has just been such a fantastic conversation. We're up against the clock. I could talk to you all afternoon, Paul, and I could talk to you just about food, but I think about setting culture, about understanding more of the restaurant industry. We talked about prices and how that affects local restaurants. Like, you are a wealth of knowledge, and I thank you so much for the time. People, if you haven't been to HomeGrown, go. Get a Pop-Tart and get some coffee cake, and you'll be sold. But, I mean, the pancakes are excellent. You mentioned it, the BLT with avocado and eggs on it is one of the best BLTs I've ever had. I mean, you can just go down the menu, just very good, high-quality food that has a lot of love pumped into it. Paul, thank you so much for giving us the time coming on the show today.
I appreciate it, Dan. As always.
Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.